I don't know how to pronounce this, I just realised.
Staedtler.
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 Staedtler. Staedtler? Staedtler. Okay, I'm gonna say Staedtler. Hi there, today I'm gonna be trying out Staedtler's coloured pencils. So I'm on a little bit of a personal mission to find art supplies that are actually pastel coloured. I personally haven't seen these before. I don't know whether I'm just not looking properly, but I find that it's kind of rare to find pencil packs that claim to be pastel coloured. It's usually markers and things, because I feel like pencils are usually all brights, and how pale they are just kind of depends on the way that you use them, but these actually claim to be a pastel pack of pencils. So I'm really excited to try these out. So this is just a set of 12. I've never really owned that many coloured pencils in the past. So I'm not claiming to be like a coloured pencil expert or anything. I don't really use coloured pencils by themselves generally, but I do use them to layer on top of markers, so that's what I'm going to be doing today to test them out. So without any further ado, I'm just going to get to testing them out and swatching them, I suppose. So this set appears to have a white, yellow, kind of a peachy pale orange, and then an orange, and then like a pale sort of a pastel red, if you will, and then another that's slightly paler, and then a pink, purple, darker blue, lighter blue, greeny blue, turquoise, and a green. Here we are. Oh no, they're gonna get mixed up. Ah! Oh, I don't like when the colours get all mixed up like that. Oh no! So, upon seeing the actual pencil, it looks like that darker red that I was seeing was actually more of a magenta colour, like a darker pink. So, upon first glance, are these pastel? I think some of them are. I think the darker ones are probably more bright, especially these two here, maybe this one as well, and this dark blue. But for the most part, as a pack of 12, pencils that claim to be pastel, this really isn't looking bad so far. Oh, by the way, the packaging is pretty sparse. There's not a lot of information on here. Hexagonal coloured pencil in pastel colours. Easy to sharpen with standard sharpeners. Brilliant, because I only have a standard sharpener, I believe. But yeah, not much more information on here. Cool, minimalist, very nice. Alright. So, I'm just going to try and shufty these over a little bit. Okay. Still in frame? Yep. Sure is. Okay. Right, I'm bringing back this page. So, in my last Is It Actually Pastel video, I tried out these markers. I should have gotten them out for... I tried out these markers. So that's what these swatches up here are for, and I thought rather than let the rest of this page go to waste, I'm going to be swatching them on the same page. I will start with the white, even though I'm not sure it's going to show up very much on a white page. Let's give it a go anyway. Obviously the white isn't showing up very well on this white paper. I wish I had some dark paper to try it on, but I don't, unfortunately. Let's move on to the yellow. Ooh, I like it. It's not too bright. I thought it was going to be pretty bright based on the outside of the pencil here, but that's a really nice pastel colour, and obviously you can build it up a little bit to make it brighter if you so desire. That's really pretty. I like it. And I'm kind of liking the way that these work as well. They're going on the page nice. I don't have to press down very hard, which is always nice with pencils. Because I think, like I said, I'm no pencil expert, but I believe the less you have to press down is probably better for your paper. Probably better for the pencil too. It just increases the longevity of everything involved, including your wrist. This one feels different to the yellow. Maybe it's just because that yellow was really pale. This feels... I don't want to say I should bring you in. I'm terrible at this YouTube lock. Okay. Now you can actually see what I'm doing. Focus, please. This one feels streakier. I don't know whether that's the correct word to use in terms of a pencil, but this one didn't go on the page like as smoothly as that yellow did. That yellow's really like nice and filled in, whereas this one I'm having to go over the area a lot more in order to fill it in. I am noticing there's not too much like fallout. I'm using makeup terms here for pencils. I don't know. There's not a lot of like flakiness of the pencil on the page. It's just going on the page. I know that some cheap pencils, when you like scribble with them like this, lots of little bits start to come off. It's not doing that, which is nice, because it then isn't ruining or isn't in danger of ruining the rest of your image if you're doing this on an art piece. If you just kind of really lightly build it up. Like I said, I'm really not pressing down very hard. And obviously too, I'm using these right out of the box. I didn't sharpen them beforehand, and before I test these on an actual art piece, I am going to sharpen them up, make sure they have a nice sharp tip on them so that I can give them an even fairer assessment. Alright, now that I have an incredibly wonky line of swatches, looking at these, are they pastel? No, unfortunately not. I really had high hopes for these because of the packaging. They looked super pastel coloured. I really like them. In comparison to the pencils that I use at the moment, which are just cheap colouring pencils. Not that these are particularly expensive, but these are kind of a brand, whereas the ones I use are like unbranded cheap pencils. In comparison, I really like these. I do think that the lead in them is probably maybe like a more brittle lead than the pencils that I'm used to. But that isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I think that once they're sharpened up too, you can get a really nice colour with these. They're looking a lot more patchy on camera than they are in real life, I promise. And that's also because I didn't go over them a lot. But are they pastel? No, unfortunately not. I don't think so. I think that possibly this pale green, I really like this mint green. Maybe I'll give the light blue a pass too, and the pink and the yellow. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 4 out of 12 isn't great. I guess I'll give the white a pass too. White I don't consider to be a pastel colour. It's a neutral, it's not anything, in my opinion. But I'll give it a pass. So 5 out of 12 is not great in terms of how many of these are actually pastel coloured. However, you can just use them with a lighter hand. They're very pretty. I really like the colour selection in these. I'm really excited to use them. And like I said in my last video, I'm almost disappointed that I decided to make a series on if something is actually pastel, because if I was just trying these out, like a first impressions, how are these pencils, I quite like them and I'm excited to use them, and that's a good sign. So yeah, do with that information what you will. We're going to draw something now, and when I say we're going to draw something, I mean we're going to test out these pencils in an art piece. The reason being is because I already drew something. Here it is. Sort of, here's one I made earlier. So I spent all morning on this. I was kind of inspired by the packaging. They have this little unicorn here. Unicorn motifs have been incredibly popular over the past year or so. Maybe before that. I don't know, I'm kind of out of touch with the world. But I always kind of shied away from the unicorn trend because it was a little too mainstream. But now that it's kind of out of the public eye a little bit more, I feel that I can indulge in it just a little bit. So I drew this unicorn girl character with rainbow coloured hair and a flower crown. And I had a lot of fun drawing this. I don't even know if you can see it properly. There it is. So I drew, lined and flat coloured this earlier with markers, but I haven't done any shading, which is why it may appear very flat at the moment. That's because it is. And I want to use these pencils to bring it to life a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous now that I've swatched them, because I feel like the colour selection here and the swatches of them are going to give me a little bit of a hard time. Where to start? I don't even know. Where do we start with this? Let's start with the skin. So I've just flat coloured the skin one colour. I guess we'll go in with this peachy tone and just add a little bit of life to the skin. I'm gonna sharpen these. So let's just add a little bit of life to the skin. Shall I zoom you in a little? Because I only flat coloured this, I didn't really decide where I wanted the light to be, but as a general rule, I quite like the light to be hitting the character's face, wherever that may be, because I feel like a character that's sort of backlit is a little bit weird and gives a kind of ominous shadow to the image, so I think I'm going to imagine that the light is just kind of hitting her head on in a flattering way. So let's put all of the shading behind her. And just go in with this pencil and start doing tiny little circles and building up a little bit of colour behind her. So far, I'm not noticing very much of a difference between this and the pencils I normally use in terms of how it sits on top of the marker. I really like going in with coloured pencils after colouring an image with markers because it just adds that little bit of extra shading, and also you can be a lot more precise. I'm really not good at being precise with markers at all, so I like to be able to have this to fall back on and kind of go in and make sure that I'm adding enough value to the image. So yeah, you can see that I'm just doing tiny little circles, building it up very slowly, very lightly, not pressing down too hard at all. How's that? It's looking okay. I'm not sure whether you're picking that up on camera because it is very pale. But in person, that's looking alright at the moment. See if I can zoom you in a little. See that little bit of shading under the chin? Nice. It's looking good so far. I didn't even end up explaining why I drew this earlier and not just in the video. It was just because I didn't want this video to be crazy long. I thought that testing out these pencils and getting them down on the page would take long enough by itself. I didn't want to also spend 3 hours drawing something on camera that I've then got to edit. So just to save myself a little bit of hassle and to save you guys having to watch a crazy long video, I drew it earlier and just getting the pencils down in the video. Just adding a little bit of shading under the sleeves here. They'd be casting a little bit of a shadow, I would imagine, if the light's coming from up here. Same on this side. In fact, I'm going to darken this whole section of the arm just to give it some depth. They look pretty good. I feel like you can't really tell that there's any kind of streakiness unless you look really, really closely. So overall, I just think that these are pretty good pencils so far. Where should we go next? I think maybe we should do the skirt next and add a lot more shading to that. So we have 3 blues to choose from. Now I feel inclined to use the palest one because I want to keep this image quite pastel coloured. But then maybe we'll go a step up and use this brighter one to add the really dark elements in. So in all of the creases of the skirt. And then I'll go under the arms, because the arms would be casting a shadow. Now, I would normally go in and shade with markers before using pencils, and then I would use pencils just kind of for them little details or finishing touches, or just to add a little bit more value and like shadow in places that really need it. But for the purposes of this video and for the purposes of trying out these coloured pencils, I only flat coloured, so normally these kind of areas would already have been gone over with marker beforehand, but it's kind of fun to just go in with pencil and take your time. I feel like I rush too much with markers. I'm always afraid that the marker is going to dry, because I've had experiences in the past where you leave the marker to dry just a tad too long. And then when you go in with another marker on top, it goes really blotchy and like the colour separates and stuff. So I tend to accidentally rush with markers because I'm so desperate to get it blended before one of them dries. But I feel like that makes my art a lot messier, so going in with pencils really feels like a relaxing experience where I can take my time and think about what I'm doing. And I'm going to go in with that brighter blue and just add a little bit of brightness, and I guess darkness too, to the areas that would be even darker. So, I'm not sure whether it's just this pencil or what's going on, but I feel like it's struggling to layer one pencil on top of the other. It was fine layering on top of the marker, but I feel like it's struggling to layer pencil on top of pencil, which is interesting. Something to note. It's like really just crumbling off. I feel like I haven't even really darkened that area at all. Yeah, I feel like it's really struggling to put pencil down on top of where I've already put pencil, which is interesting, because I normally layer them on top of each other. Yeah, now there's a lot of little crumbly bits coming off. A little annoying, but not the end of the world. I'm going to start pressing down just a little bit harder. Alright, next I think I'm going to try and shade the shirt here with a pink colour. I'm going to go in with this lightest pink because I feel like it's the best match, but I might go in with a darker one afterwards and layer it if it'll let me. In the little creases, that kind of thing. Alright, now I'm going to go in with that slightly darker pink and just darken up the areas that would be quite a lot darker. Again, this is struggling a little bit to layer on top of where I've already put pencil, which is really strange. But, Gonna go in with the lightest pink pencil and just add some streaks and some darkness where there might be some shadow. Also help blend it into that orange a little bit because the marker didn't quite blend, so I can now use this pencil on top to blend it even more. Especially places like here, which didn't blend brilliantly with the marker. Can just go in with that pencil and give it a little bit of help. I'm going to go in with the lightest blue and green and do just exactly the same as what I've been doing. Just add some shadow in the places that would be shadowy. Add a few streaks along the lines in the hair just to give it a bit of extra something. There isn't a lot of blue and green here, just a little bit, so. And again, I just tried to add a little bit more shading up here with the purple because I think that purple is a nice shading colour for some pinks and oranges and stuff. But it's going really crumbly. I don't know whether you can see that, but where I've already put pencil down, if I try and go over it with a different pencil, it really crumbles up. That's a little annoying. Alright, now that we've gone over and done most of the basic shading in this picture, I can now move on and do some of the fun stuff. So now is the point in the image that I really enjoy, going in with pencils and adding all of those little details. So one thing that I really like to do is use different colours that I've used throughout the image in sort of opposite areas. I don't know whether that necessarily makes sense, but I don't like to stick to block colours sometimes. I think that it looks really nice if, for example, I take a purple now and go over some of the blue in the skirt just to add kind of a different shading. So I'm going to struggle a little bit to do this step with these pencils because they don't seem to want to layer on top of each other very nicely. But normally I would just lightly go over maybe some of the darkest areas, maybe even along the arm too, even though the arm is clearly not purple. It's nice to add that kind of different colour of shading because it just ties the whole image together. I'm really not enjoying how this is looking with these pencils, unfortunately. This is the bit that I normally enjoy and it's not going well with these pencils. Also, while I'm at it, I think I'm going to colour her eyebrows. I think purple's a nice colour. Actually, let's do a gradient. I'm going to try and do purple to pink. So we'll do purple on the inside. And again, I would normally go in with pink and go over some areas that maybe wouldn't necessarily be pink. I'll go over this elbow, just to give it a little bit of sort of a blushed effect. It's just nice to add just a different tone into the skin. Go along here. Maybe do along the backs of the hands too. It's just nice to give it sort of a flushed effect. And also because these areas would appear still quite flat otherwise. So I'm just going to go in with that lightest pink colour and go over some areas in the face that would maybe be a little bit pinker. So I'm going to go over the nose just very lightly. Over the edge of the ear here, over the cheeks of course, to give her a little bit of a blush. And just really lightly build it up. I'm also going to go over the tops of the eyes. I quite like to darken the area above the eyes just because it adds a little bit of extra interest on the face. I'm going to take that darker pink, that sort of magenta colour, and I'm going to darken the cheeks even more, very, very lightly. So I'm going to start really light over here. These really don't want to blend very nice, or I'm getting a little bit frustrated if I'm honest, because I've done this with the pencils I've already got quite a few times and it normally works out good. I'm also just going to darken up right along her eye here more, just to make that a bit more dramatic. Now I think I'm just going to finish up the eyes, so I'm just going to take that darker blue, the sort of bright blue, and go over That's really disappointing because I was really liking these pencils and I really wanted to, I guess with all of these videos I just want to say nice things about them, but unfortunately they're really not working very well for me. They were layering on top of the marker just fine, but they don't layer on top of each other very well at all or blend into each other. They're just crumbling, which is really disappointing because I'm really trying here. Trying my absolute best. Alright, I think we're just about done. I'm just going to add some white highlights. I'm a little scared because this pen sometimes has trouble layering on top of pencil. But let's give it a good go anyway. Oh, it's doing alright. It's doing alright. These white highlights might save it actually. I'm just going to add them in the places that I normally do. Just eyes, cheeks. Anywhere that would be particularly highlighted. I'm surprised actually that after all that this white pen layers fine on top of the pencil, when that's usually what I have trouble with the other pencils, because the other pencils layer fine on top of each other, they blend really nicely, but this white pen has trouble showing up on top of them. So after all that, I can say that you can layer on top of these pencils just fine with pen. Alright, I think we're just about done with these pencils. Right then, so in terms of whether they're actually pastel coloured as the box may suggest, I'm not sure that they are. They really look it from the packaging and from just looking at them at first glance, but if we take another look at these, a lot of them are quite dark. I think overall it's a really nice selection, but a lot of them are quite dark. So overall, not really pastel. I did really like using these upon swatching them. I felt that they were really nice. They were going on the page really smoothly. Oh, and just to note, the paper that I used for the swatches and the paper that I used for this is the same. I have two sketchbooks that are exactly the same. So it was the same paper. They also layered on top of marker really nicely, but then as I was trying to layer it up and add more and more colour, they weren't really layering on top of each other very good. They were sort of crumbling and not really working very well, and I'll probably add in some close-up shots of that as well, so that you can kind of see what I mean a bit better. So, a little bit disappointing. I want to say really nice things because I like them and I'll probably continue to use them forever, but I'm a little disappointed. I feel like the pencils that I normally use really don't do that bad of a job. I've been using these for a very long time and I feel like they layer up really nicely. So it's a shame that these didn't quite live up to that, but they were pretty cheap and it's a nice colour selection. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to say. Are they pastel? Probably not. Are they good pencils? They're okay. That's what I'll say. I'm trying to be nice. No, they were nice. I enjoyed using them and I will be excited to continue using them, but they're not absolutely the best pencils I've ever used. They didn't quite layer on top of each other that nicely or that smoothly, and they kind of were a little bit crumbly on the page. So that's my concise opinion, but it is just my opinion. I hope that the artwork turned out all right regardless. I'm pretty happy with it overall. Little bit disappointed in some of the shading, but overall I like it. I'll probably add a little bit of a simple background and then show you a clip of it at the end, but that's all for now.